This is April the 7th, and I'm talking to my mother now. I want to get information for the record on her life. We are at 139 North Williams in Bolivar. Okay, Mom, first of all, I want to know what your mother's name was, her maiden name, and her date of birth, and her date of death. Okay, her name?
Her maiden name?
Uh-huh.
Well, it would be Bertha D. Birdsong.
Bertha D. Birdsong. And her date of birth?
July the 25th, 1898.
And her date of death?
January the 29th, 1966.
Do you know where she was born?
Polk County.
Just out in the country? There was no city? Okay, and what was your dad's name?
Richard Asbury Lawson.
And his date of birth and date of death?
His date of birth was June the 2nd, 1894. And he died January the 6th, 1969.
And do you know where he was born?
In Polk County.
Okay, and then besides you, they had one other daughter, right?
Yeah.
And what's her name?
Bernice.
Treva Bernice?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you know where your mom and dad were married? When and where?
They was married here in Bolivar, but I don't know when.
Was it on that obituary notice? Okay, how many brothers or sisters did your mother have? Do you know?
One brother,
What was his name?
Willie, and let's see, and two sisters,
And what are their names?
Willie, and 80 and Bertie.
Okay, do you know what their middle names were, Bertie?
Bertie Marie and 80 Elman.
And what was Willie his real name, or was it William? Willie is all that you know of.
Yeah.
Okay, how many brothers and sisters did your dad have? Can you
I'll
remember?
just name what I know because I can't name them all.
What, did you know how many there were?
No.
Okay.
Let me see now. There was Willie,
He had a brother named Willie?
and John was the youngest, and Roy. And then there was Zelma and Gertie. And
What was her name of Dad?
he had more sisters, I don't know.
Well, did you name the brother where they had all the dogs, the white dogs?
John.
John?
I named him. He was the youngest.
Oh. Okay. Let's see. Oh, do you know anything about your grandparents, Lawson?
I just seen
Grandma,
him a
Grandpa
few
Lawson?
times.
Did you hear about her?
She's dead when I was born.
What did he do? Do you know?
Oh.
Where did you see him? Can you
He was
remember
at
anything
our
about it?
house to visit.
Where did they live? Or where did he live?
I don't know where he lived.
How old was you when you saw him? Do you remember?
Probably about 7.
Oh, then he died right after that?
Well, he went to out to where Gertie and Ernie was.
Where
And I
was
think he died in Washington.
Oh.
Washington or Oregon one.
How come you never saw him before that?
Well, he just wasn't around here.
Oh. How about your birdsong grandparents? Do you remember anything about them?
Yeah.
Well, what do you remember about them? What were their names? Do you remember that?
Well, my grandmother's name was Martha, but they called her Donna. And then my granddad's name was James, and the dog named Jim.
Did they live around?
Yeah,
Close?
close to us.
Did you see them real often?
I lived with my granddad for about a year.
How old were you?
I guess I was, let's see, about 16, probably.
Your grandmother was there?
Yeah.
How come you went to live with him?
I went to live with him because my parents was separated, and he wanted me to come and live with him.
What, did you cook for him and keep house?
Well, he mostly done his cooking, I done mine, and but he with me some of the time, and I eat with him part of the time.
How old was he then? Do you know?
No. Let's see, how old was he when he died, I wonder?
He's on 70, maybe.
I imagine he was probably in his 70s then.
Mm-hmm. Did you like that living with him?
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm. How come you didn't live with him? How come you just lived with him about a year or whatever?
Well, because then after that, then I went home and stayed at home, and me and Ernest got married.
Oh. Were your great-grandparents alive?
No.
Do you know anything about them?
Mm-mm.
Well, who was them then?
Well, that was on Bertie's side.
Okay, but was that your
That
great-grandparents?
was my great-grandfather and grandmother, but I never did see them.
Okay, but
They
who
was
was,
part Indian.
both of them were?
Uh-huh.
What was their part?
I don't know.
What are, do you know where your relatives came from, your ancestors? Like Dad's were Irish and English. You know what yours were?
Well, I guess that Bertie would be part Indian, all I know.
Uh-huh.
And then I've heard Bertie say that she was part Dutch and Irish. That's what he said?
Uh-huh.
Irish?
Do you know where your folks came from?
No.
Where they came from before they came to Missouri?
Mm-mm.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school in California and went to school back here in Ingalls.
And how far did you go in school? No, don't use your
A
fingers.
little bit in the 5th grade.
Well, then in the 1st grade, did you go here in Missouri?
Well, here and then out there in California too.
And where were you in
Just
2nd
backwards
grade?
and forth, I can't remember.
Well, how come you went back and forth?
Because we traveled a lot.
Why?
Well, I don't know.
What did your dad do here?
He farmed.
Well, and what did he do? Sell the farm and go to
No,
California?
he left the farm and we went out there and they worked in the packing house.
Then how come you come back to Missouri?
Just because he wanted to come back.
How many times did you go to California then? When you were living with your folks?
I don't know, but living with my folks and living with Ernest all together 14 or 15 times.
Let me
I believe
see.
it was about 5 or 6 times since I've been married to Ernest.
Well, where else did you go? Did you live in besides California?
Oregon and Washington.
And then you'd come back to Missouri and then you'd go to one of these places?
Mm-hmm.
Did they always work in the fruit when they went to California, Oregon, and Washington?
On ranches.
Fruit ranches or what?
Yeah.
Or didn't you tell me sometime about picking hops?
That was in Washington, and that was after I was married to Ernest.
Oh, that was you and Dad then that went out there and picked hops. Did you ever work before you married Dad?
Just picking out walnuts.
Just for
Helping saw
yourself?
wood.
Yeah, well, tell me about the picking out walnuts.
Nothing to sell. Yeah, we just picked out a lot of walnuts.
So how much you made a day?
Uh-huh.
I don't know how much I made a day. I made $1 a week.
And you pick out walnuts like, what, a couple hours a day for that?
No, all day long.
Were they walnuts you went out and picked up?
They was walnuts that we got, and most usually Bertie would crack them part of the time, Bertie would. And then we would just sit at the table and pick out walnuts like a regular job. That's how we made our living.
Who did you sell them to?
Wasn't it D. Barnes? D. Barnes.
And then then he didn't come back, when he came back to Missouri, he didn't farm, you just picked out walnuts?
Well, Delores part of the time he farmed, but just the last few years is when we picked out walnuts.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, when we had some cows, I don't remember just how many, and had a team of horses.
When did you saw wood?
Oh, that's just, I helped Roy Tari a little bit, it's one of them saws that you get on one end.
Crosscut
you
saw.
know, and
Uh-huh. How much did you get paid
A
for that?
quarter a day.
Did you work all day long?
Uh-huh.
Well, did you need the money that bad that you had to...
Delores, I had no other way to make money.
What did you need the money for? Couldn't you live with your folks? Did they charge you money?
I just wanted to make the money. I don't know.
Well, did you get to keep the money that you
Yeah.
made?
I could look at it and go ahead and answer your question.
No, I wanted to know, how old were you when Bernice was born?
Well, I was 12.
Yeah. Did you have to, then you were old enough to babysit, did you have to babysit with her very much?
Yeah, I was.
Why? Did Bertha and Barry go out?
No, they went out in the field and worked.
Or you babysit for her while they worked?
Yeah. And then when they'd go to town on Saturday, well, me and Bernice would stay there because I didn't want to go to town.
Mm-hmm. Was Bernice spoiled?
Not then.
When did she get spoiled?
All later on, when she's about 2.5 or 3.
Who spoiled her?
Well, I imagine Barry and Bertie both.
Phyllis wanted me to ask you something, have you put on here something about some candy and Barry go to town and bring candy back? What was that? She told me to be sure and ask you.
Well, I don't know what she meant about that. But the candy part that I'm thinking about is one time that they went to town and 80 went with them. Is that what it is?
I don't know, that's all Phyllis told me.
And so I had stayed up there at 80's and kept Roscoe and Russell. And when they got back from town and stopped out there, of course, I ran out to the car and I happened to see the candy out there. Said something about they'd got me some candy or something like that. And Barry said, well, that's 80's candy. Like she had got it, and she didn't know anything about it. And he had got the candy, I guess, for Roscoe and Russell.
Oh.
Anyway, they got the candy.
Uh-huh.
Now, that's all I know. I don't know what she meant, but that's all I know anything about any candy. And 80 just told Bertie then one time they kind of got into it over it, and she just said that her kids had chocolate candy lots of times when Bertie's kids didn't have.
Wasn't there something about some peanut butter one time? Did you tell me something about some peanut butter? A story about some peanut butter and you and Bernice? Do you remember?
Bernice, they'd buy peanut butter and she'd get the jar and just carry it around and eat it. Have a spoon and just eat it.
Like it was a treat?
Yeah. And of course nobody else would want to eat out of it. She'd just carry it around with her. That was when we lived in Los Angeles.
How come you just went to the 5th grade?
Well, I don't know. I guess because we traveled around so much and I was put back so much. And then finally, I just got so big that I didn't want to go to school.
It didn't have anything to do with birthing and wanting you to stay home and take care of Bernice so they could work?
No. It had something to do with wintertime, 3 creeks to cross, and they just didn't want me to go. I had to walk 2 miles.
Mm-hmm. Well, how about when you lived in California, you didn't have to walk?
Yeah, but I don't know. I went regular out there, I think. Best I can remember.
Didn't they want you to go to school?
They didn't seem to care. They wasn't like I always was about you kids wanting you to get an education. It seemed like it didn't bother them.
Did they have an education?
I think Bertie went to about the 4th grade. Barry had a good education.
Barry was like my mother. He could pronounce any word pretty near that.
I believe didn't he go to the 8th grade?
I don't remember.
But I think somebody said that he was always pretty smart.
And he could figure out anything too pretty near.
You were talking about Bernice getting peanut butter a while ago. What did you have to eat ordinarily?
Well, we had plenty to eat of what it was, Delores. We never went hungry. We would have meat,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd have potatoes and beans and sausage and things out of the garden. But we never would have any crackers or anything like that because I would never ask for any. They'd have probably bought them if I had them.
You just had stuff that you could raise yourself?
Yeah, mostly.
And you raised your own meat?
Uh-huh.
I wanted to ask you about, did you date much before you married Dad and met Dad? How come?
Circumstances of where I lived at, I guess, for one thing, there wasn't any young folks down in there. And another thing, while they was awful strict with me, they wouldn't let me go with anyone hardly.
Well, since you weren't going to school, what was the, I guess, the only opportunity you had to meet anybody? Was it church, was it?
Yeah, I guess.
What church did you go to church?
Yeah, we went to church quite a bit. When we was out in California, we went to the Four Square Church. There's two boys out there wanted to go with me, but I wouldn't go.
Would Bertha Bray let you go?
I think they would have let me go, probably.
And then what church did you go to back here?
No, I don't know what you'd call it, Pentecostal church, I guess. And then we went, when they'd have revivals down at 8 on us, we'd go down there, and that was a Baptist church.
What did you usually do whenever you did have a date? Did you go to the movies? Go to church? What?
When I went with Johnny Hope, he took me to the show once. Otherwise, didn't go no place, just park and talk.
They all, what, in a buggy or a car? What
No,
did
in
they
a
have?
car.
Oh,
Wasn't back that far, Delores. Going in a buggy.
well, I didn't know.
But Barry and Bertie went in a buggy.
On their day?
Yes.
Phyllis also told me to ask you something about being a great animal lover. Something about any sick little chickens that you'd take care of them, and something about a squirrel, and something about a snake.
Well, I don't know anything about a snake.
A garter snake that followed you home or something? Can you think? Well, tell me about the sick chickens.
Well, we just used to set incubators, and all along sick chickens, when I'd try to take them and doctor them and get them well. And I'd get a little flock of them, and they'd just kind of stay together, and they'd know me. And they wouldn't even associate with the other chickens.
Did you get them well?
Yeah, most of the time.
What about the squirrel?
Well, the squirrel's the second story.
What about it?
It was cute and all, but I got mad at it. It bit me when I was trying to feed it, and I killed it.
How'd you kill it?
I knocked it in the head with a stick of wood.
Good grief.
Well, I did.
What was it, a stick? What was it, stick
It
or
wasn't
something?
sick, no. It was just a squirrel, but no, I'll tell you, it bit and the blood just flew out of my finger.
Well, did you feel bad after you killed it?
I didn't.
Oh, gosh. Mom, can you tell me any of your stories that you remember back when you were younger, like when you went to California or when you were working or anything like that?
Yes, I can tell you about us going to California, and it being late in the evening and the beautiful sun setting, and about Barry and Bertie killing a rabbit for supper and dressing it and everything, and while they was cooking the supper, I'd walk up and down the road.
Was it a paved road like
No,
they
it
had?
was sand. They didn't have any highway that would be paved then.
What kind of car were you in?
Well, I suppose it was a Model T. Barry bought a brand new one.
To go to California? Where'd he get his money to buy it?
Well, we always had money, Delores. I can't never remember when we was ever broke.
Well, did you not take any food or stop any place to eat? You just kill the
No,
along
we
the
had
way?
food. Bertie would always, she would fix peach pies, and we'd take pork and beans, and she'd fry up meat and stuff, you know, to last us part of the way.
Don't I remember you telling something about being afraid about some Indians that were on a warpath or something one time? I can't remember. Huh?
Yes, you can remember it.
No, I can't.
We
I
was
just
with
know-
this other family, and so they made their beds, you know, down on the ground, and these other people, they had a girl, well, she was a stepdaughter of this woman, and they made her sleep in the car by herself. Of course, we didn't know that an Indian had been killed yet until the next morning. But anyway, Barry and Bertha and this other man and woman made their beds, you know, down on the ground. I slept in between Barry and Bertha, and we didn't have Bernice singing. And we never got any sleep that night. We could just hear them Indians a-hollering and a-yelling all night long.
Were you on the reservation?
No, we wasn't on the reservation. We was just outside of the road. It was different from what it is now, you know. And cattle would run loose because they wouldn't have any fences up much, you know. And anyway, well, we stopped at a filling station then the next morning. Well, but first, though, while this other family, their boy, I guess he's about 14 or 15, he got his gun and, you know, laid it down to the side of him. And Burry had a hatchet there, and he had it laying there. That was just how scared we all was. So the next morning then, when we stopped to get gas, and they mentioned something, you know, about all that noise, that we didn't get any rest last night. And that man said, no wonder, said, you was on real dangerous ground, said that they had just killed the Indian chief, and said they was having all kind of war dance.
You know why they killed the Indians?
No, we didn't ask.
White people had killed the Indians?
Well, I don't know who killed it.
Oh.
But anyhow, that's just what that man said. So that's all I know. And then we went on our merry way.
Can you think of any other story?
What
What about gold? Phil said to me to be sure and ask you something about some gold. And some people's heads under the bed.
Oh, I can't remember that too much.
Well,
I
just
didn't
tell me
even
what you
know
can
the
remember.
people. It's some kin folks that was on Berthy's side of the family, and they wouldn't be very much kin to us or anything. I can't remember just how it was. But anyway, when people used to travel a long time ago, well, they'd travel on horses. And they would carry their gold with them in sacks. So this was a man and woman, and they was on their horses, and it was getting late, so they seen a big fine house, and they thought they'd stop and ask if they could stay for the night. Now this is supposed to be a true story. And they stopped and asked, and the people said, why yes, said they had a room. So they said that they'd, you know, take their horses and put them up for them and everything. So they did, and the man and woman then, they went on into the house. And it was dark by that time, so the woman that lived there, well, she lit the coal light and went up the stairway where the room was, and the man and woman, you know, was following along behind. And this woman that was going to stay there that night, you know, with her husband, she just happened to glance, and under the bed, well, there laid a man with his head split open. So, of course, she didn't dare say a word because she was afraid that they'd be killed right there. And they just act like they went to bed, but yet they was trying to think how they could get out of that house, you know. And, well, after this woman, you know, that owned the place, after she went on back down the stairs, well, they heard her turn the key in the door, and they had locked them upstairs. Well, this woman and man, they began looking around trying to find a way how they could get out of that room, you know. And they looked in there, they seen a ladder running up to the window. And they seen lights off out in the field. And it was 2 or 3 men, I forget just how many now, but as many as 2 I know. They was digging a grave out there. I guess to bury this man.
The body that was under the bed?
Yes. I can't figure why they ever let that man and woman, you know, go up there. But anyway, they decided that they'd take their gold, and they never even stopped to even get their shoes on. They was so scared, and they climbed down that ladder, climbed out that window, and got down that ladder, and run to where their horses was, and then people had them horses all not locked, but all barred up in that barn, you know. And they didn't have time to even get on their horses. They just had to run through the brush, you know. And they said it wasn't no time till them people was looking all around, flashing lights and things, trying to find them. And so they run quite a long ways till they come to another farmhouse, and they stopped and told them people about it. And they said that them people said, well, we thought, said they was getting rich off them quick. And that's just really about all I remember about that deal.
Who told you that? Do you remember?
Well, Bertie's told it to me. And I did know who the people was. Seems to me like that could have been maybe her great-grandmother. I just believe it was.
What about, wasn't there a story, they used to tell something about a squirrel in the attic? Or an owl in the
No,
attic?
that was a mouse up there in the
Tell that one. What it was.
box.
Tell that one. I can't remember this stuff. I just remember little pieces of it.
Well, Ernest, are you going to butt in and help me tell it?
Was this after you were married?
No, I don't know how old I was, but we had picked strawberries nearly all day, and I was really tired. And Burry had went fishing, and I believe he had went with Willie after we got through picking the strawberries. So me and Berthy had sat up there at the kitchen table, and we just had a cool long life, you know. And it was, of course, in warm weather, and the screen, we just had the screen door, you know, there, and it wasn't even locked yet. So anyway, I was helping her stand them strawberries, and I got tired, and I decided to go lay down on the foot of the bed for a while. Well, I went to sleep. So pretty soon she's hollering in there, and she'd say, "Zelma," said, "is that you?" And I didn't answer her for a while, and finally she come in there, and she said, "Is that you making that noise?" And I said, "No, that's not me. I've been asleep." And she said, "Well, listen," said, "don't you make a bit of noise," said, "I've been hearing something," and said, "I thought that was you tapping on the bedstead." And so we slipped around and got that latch hooked, you know, on that screen door. And sure enough, well, we could hear that noise, you know. It just sounded like somebody walking up in the attic. And so she said, well, we'd go outside. She got the flashlight, and she said we'd go outside and see maybe if there was some kind of a big bird up on top of the house walking. Said it might be that. And she took hold of my hand, you know, and we was both scared. And we walked around the house and looked, and we couldn't see anything, so we went back in the house. And that noise just kept on, and we just kept on getting more scared all the time. Because by then, we thought maybe somebody up in that attic, sure enough. So we stood it just about as long as we could. And we walked through that long path there that leads up to, let's see, I don't know if my grandma and granddad was living then. I believe they was, though. Yeah, I know they was. We walked up to their house, and by that time, my dad was up there then. And so he came right on down, and he got a ladder. We didn't have no stairway, but then it was a little, just a little hole, you know, where you could get up in the attic. He got a ladder and put it up there, and climbed up there and stuck his head up there and looked all around. He couldn't see nothing, but he heard the noise. So then he went ahead and crawled on up there in the attic, and he got up there, and it was a mouse in a box, jumping up, trying to get out and falling back down.
Didn't you feel silly after you found out what it was?
Well, no, we was glad. We was scared to death. I mean, we was really scared.
What about these stories whenever... were they stories that happened to you, or were they just something you told about going to church or something, was it, at night, and carrying the lantern because there were panthers?
Well, me and my granddad and, let's see.
Now, which granddad?
Birdsong.
Okay.
And my cousin, Nina. And then, of course, there were some more cousins along, but they wasn't back. It was me and Nina that we would lag along at the very... We was dragging along at the back, and we heard this loud screaming noise. Sounded like a woman screaming.
And was it dark or in the daytime?
Oh, it was dark. We was coming back from church. And So I'd always heard that a panther wouldn't bother you if you was up around light. And me and Nina really rushed up to where the lantern was.
Is that what you thought it was?
Well, that's what they all thought it was, because my granddad, he had seen a big black animal of some sort up in the limb of a tree, up through that part, you know, in the daytime. And he said it just jumped from limb to limb. So it could have been a panther. We never did know. It just let out a big scream, just like somebody was screaming. And it was pretty close.
Did anyone ever kill a panther around there that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Were there
But there was talk of them.
Uh-huh.
So that's all I know about that.
Any other things you can remember? What did you say that to remind her of Dad? Ever tell?
Oh, I said about the bulls.
What about the bull?
Well, this about Bill, and I don't know if that's what he's talking about or not, but Barry went squirrel hunting one time. Is that what you wanted me to tell?
Yeah, with the cows.
Well, no, that wasn't it. Barry went, well, I'll tell that later. Barry went squirrel hunting, and he wanted me to go along with him, you know, to scare the squirrel around where he could shoot it. But he was up in the tree because somehow or another, I think the squirrel was in the holler part of the tree.
Barry was up in the tree?
Uh-huh. And there was an old bull there in the pasture. And I was scared to death that bull would come while I was down on the ground. So anyway, he shot the squirrel and he gave it to me. And he said, now you can go to the house if you want to. Well, I just got almost to the fence and I heard this snorting noise and all this bellowing and looked up and there was that bull a-coming. And I mean, I really got under that fence quick and I had to run through a corn patch. And I never looked back till I got underneath that next fence and got out in the road. And that bull was just a pawing and a bellowing. But what Ernest was wanting me to tell him about, I guess, is when my job used to be to go get the cows on the horse. And I got down there, and of course the cows had got out, and they'd got over in the pasture with this other person's cows, you know, and they had that bull over there. Well, I couldn't get them cows away from there. So I come on back home, and of course Barry got mad at me because, you know, that I didn't bring the cows. And he had to go back down and get them. And that's all I know about that deal.
And what else?
And then when I was in the field one time, why, I was getting real tired. They'd put me to replanting beans in with the corn. So Berthy said, well, when you get all them beans gone, well, you can go to the house. So I just got tired and I thought, well, I'll get them gone. And I dug me a big hole and I threw the whole batch of beans in that hole.
You didn't think they'd know it, huh?
I never said a word about it. But later on, when the beans came up, well, they asked me if I hadn't planted the beans in the hole to get rid of them. And I said yes. But they didn't whip me, they just laughed.
You were sneaky. You talked about me being sneaky like that. I think there's a good chance I could have been sneaky like
Delores.
you.
And then another time I can remember something got wrong with some of the machinery that Barry had to go to town to get something fixed. And it was an old gray mare. And he put me to, well, he had a big rock, a big flat rock tied on behind this old gray mare. And I'd stand on that rock and that would cover the corn up, you see. So anyway, that old gray mare, when I went to turn the corner, I turned her too fast, and that rock scared her, and she started in running and got away from me, and I couldn't catch her.
Were you still on the rock?
No, I jumped off of it.
Oh.
But my granddad was there at the house, so I got him to come, and he finally got her. And then another time, I was on the harrow. Ain't that what you call it? And I turned the horses too fast, and Barry wasn't there then either. He maybe was to the house or someplace, I don't know, but I know he wasn't down in the field. And I just jumped off of that harrow in time because it just flipped right over. You know, and horses got scared.
Well, how old were you when you were doing that kind of stuff?
I wasn't very old. I imagine I was 11 or 12.
Well, he didn't have money to hire a man to help him?
Well, he
He
did. One year, I can remember, he hired 2 men, and we had quite a bit of wheat.
How did you ever meet this Pearl that you write to all the time now?
Well, we lived close to her
And she
in
was
Los
just,
Angeles.
and she was just your girlfriend there?
Yeah.
Anything else about her?
She is married.
Oh, Pearl was married?
She was
Yeah.
married, and she had, let's see, she had a little boy, and she was expecting another baby too. And Bertha used to keep the little boy while me and her go out for walks and things.
She's not the same age as you are, is she?
A little
Is
bit
she quite a
older,
bit
I
older?
forget. Seems to me like she was 19 then, and I was 14.
I wanted to ask you about medicine. Or whenever you got sick, what did you do? Did you go to the doctor or call the doctor? Did Bertha make your medicine?
She doctored me kind of like the same way that Ori done. They used their home remedies mostly, but they did. They took me to the doctor. They took me to Dr. Smith one time that I can remember, and then let's see, they had Dr. Bridges out there one time when we all had the flu so bad. We all had it.
Did she make your clothes?
Yeah.
Did you?
I didn't even have a boughten dress that I can remember anything about until I was about, probably 16.
Did you help her cook? Did you help with the housework, or did you just always help
I
outside?
had my chores to do. I made the beds, swept the floors, drawed the water for the house, and drawed the water for the stock, and done things like that, but I didn't do much cooking.
Did she make your bread like Dad's mom did?
Yeah. She made real good light bread.
What would you usually have to eat?
When would be there?
Like for your big
School
meals.
lunches.
Oh yeah, school lunches or your big meals, whatever.
She'd make cream pie and make cakes, and we'd have fried rabbit and a lot of fried squirrel and fish and just things like that.
What about Christmas? Would you get bought things or things that she had made?
We didn't get no gifts.
No gifts for Christmas? Well, what? You didn't have to hang a stocking up?
When I was little, when we was out in California and we lived at Piru, I had a real good Christmas. Now I said we didn't have no Christmas. We did part of the time too. But I can't remember what I got out there, but I know they had a Christmas tree up. And, but then later on, when we was back here, well, they went all out for me one year at Christmas.
How old were you?
Well, I just don't know. I imagine probably I might have been 6, or I was from either 6 to 8 years old.
What'd they do?
Well, Barry acted like he was Santa Claus and had a Santa Claus face on, and he had went out to the barn, and so Bertha had me sit on her lap, and she told me, she said, now, you're going to have to say a little poem for Santa Claus. And here I thought he was out to the barn milking. Santa Claus said to me, said, where's your daddy at? I said, he's out to the barn milking.
Oh, you didn't know it was him?
No, I didn't know it.
What was the little poem you said? Do you remember?
Yeah,
What
about
was
that little bird.
Say it.
I don't know if I can or
I'll
not.
say what you remember.
A little bird with feathers brown sat singing on that tree. That song was very soft and low, but sweet as it could be. Papa dear, said little Gracie, where can that birdie be? If I could sing like that, I'd sit where folks could see. I hope my little girl will learn a lesson from that bird and try to do what good she can, not to be seen or heard.
What did you?
And I said that verse, and then I got my gifts, and I got a little toy accordion, And, I got 3 or 4 things. I can hardly remember. I can just mostly remember that one accordion.
Where did you learn that poem?
Bertha and Barry taught it to me. Well, I don't know where they learned it at.
Did you have a Christmas tree? Just about
Not
every
that
year?
year. That one song I never remember in California.
Did they have Christmas trees after Bernice was born? Wonder why, do you know?
I just didn't believe in it.
What about birthdays? Did they do anything special
No.
for birthdays? Nothing in it? Did you have a cake for your birthday?
Oh, I imagine probably once in a while. I can hardly remember. I think so, maybe. But no gifts.
What was, back then, what would a big treat have been?
A big what?
Treat.
Treat. Making homemade ice cream on the 4th of July.
Did you just do that every year on the 4th?
No, we made homemade ice cream, and especially when we was in California, well, Gertie and Ernie. And that was before Bernice was ever born. And it would be Gertie and Ernie and us, you know. We would go to the beach and take our dinner and hunt shells, and then we'd get together and make ice cream a lot. And we had quite a lot of fun.
I wanted to ask you about Berthie's marriages, and then Barry's too, because I know Berthie got married a lot. So first of all, she was married to Barry.
Yeah.
And they had you, and then was she married to anyone else before she had Bernice?
Huh.
All right, so she was still married to Barry.
She was crippled and had that rheumatism. No, she wasn't either. It was right after me and Ernest got married that she married then another man.
Who was it that she married?
It was that Charles Barker.
How long was she married to him?
Not very long. He left her after she got crippled with that rheumatism. He just left her laying in the bed and left a note down in the mailbox at another woman's mailbox. And they happened to find the note in the mailbox, and they come and told us. And then me and Ernest went and got her and moved her to our house.
She didn't even know he was leaving her?
Ain't that the way it was?
And he didn't know it. She didn't know that he was going.
No, he told her that he was going to go hunting. See, I think he had some traps set or something. And he said he was going to go, and he just didn't come back. I think he thought she had more money than what she did have. And then she got sick, you know, and was bedfast, so he just didn't want the responsibility of taking care of her.
Was he any kin to the dad's Barker?
No.
None at all?
She met him in Washington
Well, they come back to Washington with us.
when we was picking
Her and
hops.
this man? Well, did you never know what happened to him?
Huh.
That was the last anybody ever heard of him?
Never did hear no more.
Did she get a divorce on desertion then, or how did she get a divorce?
Well, I don't know. She got her divorce, though. And then, I believe, is that when she married Barry back then? Barry kept writing notes to her, you know, and slipping around and talking to her, you know, wanting her to marry him back. Said for the sake of Bernice, you know. So she decided then finally that she would marry him back. And they just liked a few days of living together, a month. And he brought her and her clothes back to our house.
And
And brought Bernice too.
And then she divorced him then again, or he divorced her?
Well, I don't know whether he divorced her or how that deal was. But anyway, then she met, let's see, which one did she marry next? Bob Covert, I believe.
How do you spell his last name?
Covert.
We moved to town that time.
Bob Covert was a little bit akin to Barry. And so anyway, she married him just to get a home so she wouldn't be a burden on us.
Do I kind of remember him?
You may have. He kind of limped.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, if he limped.
And he drank quite a bit. But he always treated me all right.
How long did they stay married?
Oh, they stayed married quite a little while in a way. They was married when Hazel was born.
So that was
but I can't remember just how
About how
long. I
many
didn't
years?
pay no attention to it. And then after that, well, I don't know why that they didn't live together. He was pretty high-tempered and everything. Wouldn't work hardly, and she had to pick out walnuts. And they finally lived here in town. And then she met Phil and married him, and I think that was a fairly good marriage.
Well, when did Barry marry Minnie?
Well,
He married Minnie before him and Bertha married the second time.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. Him and Minnie separated. And then he married Bertha.
see, Barry stayed with us part
And
of
so
the
then
time,
Bertha
too.
and him separated, and then he married Minnie back.
You're kidding.
That's right.
He married Bertie twice, he married Minnie twice.
What was Minnie's name? Maiden name, do you know?
Johnson.
Johnson. Well, how did he meet her?
He met her down at Willie's because Willie was married to Minnie's mother. And Minnie had left her husband,
Wait, now which Willie? His?
Willie Birdsong. He was married to Minnie's mother. And so Barry would go there to Willie's, and of course Minnie was there to visit her mother. And that's where he met her at.
Mom, whenever you and Dad got married, did Bertha and Barry say anything about it? Did they want you to get married, or
They didn't seem to care.
did they give you a
Well,
wedding
no.
present?
Well, no, in a way they didn't want me to get married, I don't think. But yet, Bertie said that they didn't sleep any that night
Mhm.
after I got married.
Did they give you a wedding present?
Yeah,
What did they give
in a
you?
way. Well, Bertie gave us the cow. Barry gave us a wood cook stove. And then he gave me that long kiln I've got.
Huh?
And then some quilts and pillows.
Mhm. I wanted to ask you.
That was pretty good for that day and time to get that much.
I was going to ask you back when you were in California. What did Barry do while he was out there, as far as work goes, other than?
He worked at the packing house. I forget just what he did do. It was in the lemon house. And then he would work on ranches. And I don't know whether he drove a truck.
I picked oranges, so.
I don't really know what he did do, but when we lived there at Piru, that was really the best place. He worked for Claude Baker, and I remember he drove a what do you call it, a tractor, and he almost turned over the mountainside. They had, the English walnut trees.
The terraces up there you had to have.
Mm-hmm.
Had them planted up on the mountainside, and he almost turned over. If it had, it would probably kill him.
Well, what was this about welfare? Going to send you back here?
Well, that was the last time that we was out there before I married Ernest. He just couldn't get any work. I guess it was just hard times. That was back in the times Ernest was telling about.
Mm-hmm.
In the 30s, because we got married in 36, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And what little jobs that he did get would just be, I think he maybe picked lemons or oranges. And they didn't seem to pay too much, and he just didn't have any work. And then Bertie, she tried working in the packing house, and everything was modern and different, and they expected so much out of her, and she was older and she just couldn't take it.
So how come welfare was going to, pay you a train
Well,
ticket or
see,
what?
they was just going, they had to write back here to see if it was okay for us to come back here somehow or another. I don't quite understand it. I didn't pay much attention, Delores, to things like kids does now. I didn't listen then. I just know that they furnished the money for us to come back here, and they paid our way. It took 3 months to get things straightened out for us to come back here. And we went to Los Angeles, and I know they had to go to a place up there, and talk in an office. But I didn't go. I sat in the car, so I don't know nothing about it.
Oh, that was the time when you got a face. Lance up there, I think.
And anyway, we stayed 3 months there till they, you know, got the word, you know, for us to come on back here.
What'd you get your face lanced? Or what was that about?
Had a wen on it.
A what?
A wen.
I've never heard of that.
Well, it was a big puffy outfit.
Like a boil?
No, it was soft, but it was just a great big thing about as big around as a $50.
Where? That's on
Right
your-
here, I've got the X
Just
mark.
under your eye?
And the doctor lanced it.
What causes it? What caused it?
A bruise, I think. Probably from squeezing blackheads out.
I wanted to ask you too about how did Bertha get crippled?
She got crippled from having that rheumatism.
How old was she when she got rheumatism?
She must have been. It was the year that you was born. See, she come up there to stay with me and just stayed a week, and she got sick.
And
I think she probably was about 30 or 31.
or was I born then? Whenever
You was
she was
born.
married to Charles, all these other men?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
You wasn't born when she first got married to Charles Barker, but you was born when she came up there to stay that week with me, because he stayed down there. And then after she got sick, well, we took you down there, and we put a mattress on top of our car so we could stay for a few nights down there, you know, and we had to sleep in the floor because they didn't have any extra bed. And that Charles, while she was down in the bed, you know, bed fast, he had just cut the meat, you know, hams and shoulders and stuff like that, and just hollered out the lean part and wasted all the fat.
did he work?
No.
Well, it was just the rheumatism that caused her to be crippled then? Was there
Well,
anything
she fell. Well, she thought she was going to fall off the bed when we was just little. She was living with us then, and we had moved to another place.
She was already crippled in though.
She was crippled, but
Arthritis caused that.
but I don't know but what she didn't break her knee. But she always thought she did, and she had to be in bed then for a long time after that, and her knee all swelled up.
But she didn't go to the doctor?
See, we didn't take her to the doctor. We didn't have no money. She didn't
Oh.
either.
Well, she finally went to Human Hospital, and so they said the joint water had got out of her knee, you know,
They drawed it out.
or something or other,
Put a needle in there and drawed that out.
Oh.
and made her leg stiff. She said it was kind of bent all the time, you know,
Uh-huh.
cause when she's in bed sick, they made her kind of trough to lay her leg in, you kind of hold the pressure off of her knee, see.
Uh-huh.
You had to because you couldn't stand it, you know.
She'd scream every time that you'd move her.
Well, you couldn't hardly look at her. I mean, you know what, she had such pain, you know,
Uh-huh.
and so her leg never straightened out.
It just stayed like
It
that.
Kind of
goes
like Dwight's is.
She's in that cast, kind of, like that. You lay in bed,
Uh-huh.
laying on her back. See, she had to.
And then is that when that Charles left her? During
Yeah,
that
that's
time?
when he left her. We went down and moved her up to our place.
Well, how long did she, how many times did, or about how much did she live with you? How many years? Uh-huh.
Oh, Delores, I don't know, is off and on several different times. I
And
just
Bernice
don't know.
too?
Well, no, Bernice just stayed with us, I think, about 3 months.
Well, Bernice went to school with us with us up there here.
But then when I was going to have Phyllis, you see, I'd never had the measles, and of course you hadn't either. And Bernice had been exposed to the measles, so she had to stay at, now what's that DeWitt's name?
Willard Witz.
Willard DeWitt's. And Eva DeWitt was her teacher. So anyway, Bernice had the measles, you see, and had to stay up there on account of
How come she didn't stay with Bertha?
Bertie was with us.
Oh, how come she never did go with Barry?
Well, Barry did take her to Kansas, but because Minnie throwed such a fit and didn't want her.
Did Minnie have any children when Barry married? Had Minnie been married before?
Yes,
Did she have any children
she had Margaret.
then? Oh, Margaret and Bernice was about the same age,
Yeah.
weren't they? You think anything else, Mom?
Yes, I can think of something else. We may have had the devil, but I wouldn't give anything for the experiences that I've had. I got some pretty good memories.
Well, what are some more of them then?
Well, the traveling, I really enjoyed it.
You don't think that you're not sorry that you didn't have one home to grow up in and have all the same friends all the time?
No, I don't think so.
Can you remember which did you like best whenever you were younger? Did you like California or Washington or Oregon?
California.
Did you live in pretty nice houses?
Out there we did, yeah.
Did they rent or buy?
Well, we owned the place once, but we didn't own it too long. But then one time when we was renting, we had nice furniture, and then sold it and come back here. And then I really liked to live there at Pottery on that ranch.
Did you ever go to dances or anything like that?
Yeah, when we was living at Los Angeles, I just went and stood on the outside and watched. Didn't get to go in.
Well, what did you do for entertainment?
Well, we went up to the park, me and Pearl did, rode on the merry-go-round and just walked around. I like to go for walks.
Well, they've seen races, I think, once in a while.
Oh yeah, we went and we'd watched them little midget car races.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun then.
Well, what did you do for entertainment when you were in Missouri? When you were back here?
Nothing, there wasn't anything to do. Lived out in the country and there wasn't any young folks. That's when me and Leona Medcase, that's the only girlfriend I had to run around with. And then Lorraine Lightfoot, she come and stayed all night with me, and I'd go and stay all night with her, and that's just about it.
What would you listen to the radio a lot?
We didn't have a radio.
No, you didn't have, you didn't have any electricity?
No.
Oh. Did you
Pretty
read
dull
a lot?
life. What I looked forward to, Delores, then, was the mail carrier coming and bringing a letter from my boyfriend.
Who was that?
Oh, Pearl's brother lived in Oklahoma.
Had you ever met him?
No.
Well, how did you start writing to him?
Oh, she just wanted me to write to him, and he wrote to me and sent me his picture.
Was he good looking?
Well, I thought he was pretty good looking.
Was he older than her or younger?
He was older.
Whatever happened to him?
Well, he's not married to this day, I don't guess.
He's a fat guy.
Fat now?
And
Looks like he does in the picture.
okay, and I've got something else to say.
What?
He sent me the money to buy my first sheets with, and my first pillowcases, and a set of enamel dishes that me and Ernest eat out of for a long time, and even you kids.
Well,
and they
how
were
come
supposed to be for me and him. We was going to get married, but instead me and Ernest got married.
They're gonna get married, never seen one another.
Did you write and tell him that you were getting married?
No, he quit writing to me, and I think 'cause Barry would cuss and get mad and everything, didn't want me to marry him. And I think that Barry wrote because I know my letters and things was disturbed, and he had threatened saying he was going to stop it, you know.
Well, how much money did he send you that you bought all this
Oh,
stuff?
he just sent $5, but it bought all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he wanted to send more money. He wanted to send enough money and me go ahead and buy the furniture, and then when he was going to marry me, he'd bring the truck and get it. And I wrote back and told him no, not to send the money, that when he got here, me and him would pick out the furniture together. But if I'd had any sense, I'd let him go ahead and send it. I guess he had some money because
He aired it.
see, he erred quite a little bit, and Pearl did too, but Pearl's husband run through with her part.
There were just the two of them? Did Pearl ever say anything about that?
No, I never talked to her about it this time, you know.
You never have talked to her since?
But
about
if I get a chance to go this summer, I'd kind of like to see him, see what he looks like.
That would be kind of funny,
Oh,
wouldn't
wouldn't you?
Wouldn't it be embarrassing? Daddy, you gonna give him his $5 back?
No.
No, but I just
Anybody ain't got no
imagine
better sense than that, I wouldn't give him the
you
money back.
seen Pearl, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
Well, I just wouldn't doubt what he won't look old looking and funny, but I'd really kind of like to see him.